Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell. It really helps me out and you never want to miss a video of mine. So today's video is going to be I guess you would consider it a care video. Today's video is going to be owning a hamster on a budget. So I just want to start off by saying I personally do not think that hamsters are a cheap animal. You're constantly buying things for them, you know, bedding, food, toys, and it's not like you just buy all of it at once and then you never have to buy again. You're constantly buying and buying and buying, and especially if you, I don't want to say like if you really like your hamster, because obviously people that are on a budget doesn't mean that they don't love their hamster, but I'm just saying that as in if you really love your hamster, you want to get like a million toys. And I started out with not all my toys were in my cage, but then, you know, I slowly continued to own hamsters, and I just accumulated so many toys where I couldn't put all my toys in one cage. So I just want to start off with saying that I don't personally think that they should be considered a cheap animal. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over 4 topics of like how to make it in a cheaper way. All right, so of course have to start with the cage, because that is obviously the most important part of owning a hamster. Now, I am gonna go over what you can do as in a cheap way, but I would say that tanks are definitely expensive, but there is a few tanks that you can get that are cheap. You can actually, I think Petco still does it, where they do a half off deal, or $1 per gallon. So none of the $1 per gallons are safe, unfortunately, for hamsters, or they're not obviously big enough. A 40-gallon breeder on the half off deal is I think like $50, and then I got my 75-gallon half off for $100 when it was originally $200. So still definitely expensive, but you can definitely get, if they're still doing it. I heard that they're not, but I don't know if they're still doing the Petco deal or whatever on tanks. And then also an IKEA D-Loft, which is a not hamster cage, but a lot of people have used it as a hamster cage. They turn it into a hamster cage. I actually have a video on IKEA D-Lofts. Or they used to be $60, but now they're $100, which is still not too bad, but you do have to get a special stand for it. But yeah, anyway, just wanted to kind of say that before I get into the actual cheap version of a cage. So obviously hamsters have a minimum, which is 450 square inches of floor space, which personally I recommend like 600, but we won't get into that. But the cheapest way that you can get a hamster cage that is the right size is bin cages. So bin cages are usually super cheap and a good size. You can get them in all sorts of sizes. You do have to kind of customize them, as in like you have to make the top or the lid. You have to like add mesh and stuff to it, because they can't just be locked in a bin cage. They're usually super deep. You can usually add a bunch of bedding into it. They come in like all different sizes where they can get really big, which is obviously not as cheap, but still pretty big. And I want to say that a lot of people that aren't on a budget or whatever, they still use bin cages because they personally like the bin cages. So I think bin cages are awesome. I personally have never kept an animal in there for like a very long time. My bin cage is usually like a temporary cage. I also want to mention that a critter trail, which is absolutely not safe for your hamster, is more than a bin cage. So all these people at a pet store and stuff, they literally easily could get a freaking right size cage, give them the right care for cheaper than a flipping critter trail. Sorry, just makes me mad that like literally a critter trail is more expensive than a bin cage, but is complete opposite on like which one is safe and not. All right, the next most important part of owning hamster is their bedding, which you honestly can't really get that cheap. There are a few different types of bedding, as in like I get full cheeks, which they've kind of downgraded. It used to be All Living Things, and All Living Things was super cheap compared to like other brands of bedding, but they turned into full cheeks, and then it kind of went up a little bit, like the bag got smaller but stayed the same price. But I know that Walmart also sells Uber. I might be saying that wrong, and that bedding is pretty good. But yeah, Walmart has bedding as well, and most of it is safe. Some of it obviously isn't, but it is quite cheap. You can also make your own bedding with napkins. I actually have a video on it. You only need special scissors, and then you can just continuously make your own hamster bedding for the rest of your hamster's life. Or you can obviously get a paper shredder, but again, it's like, if you're getting that, then you might as well just get regular bedding because it's going to be about the same price. But with the scissors, they're super cheap and super easy. It does hurt your hand after a while, but gotta do what you gotta do. Also have something else I want to mention. Pine bedding is not safe for your hamsters, but it is used a lot because it is super cheap. So unfortunately, the cheapest hamster bedding that you can get is pine, which is not safe for your hamsters. Pine can cause a respiratory issue, and it's so bad for them to constantly breathe that in, and then a respiratory issue is just very hard to deal with your hamster, and it's not going to be cheap. Yeah, unfortunately you can get like a big bag for super cheap when it comes to pine bedding, but it is not safe for your hamsters. So I just want to put that out there, that yes, there is a super cheap alternative, but it's not an alternative because it is very bad for your hamster. But the next one is toys. Now this one, it is a bit harder to get cheap because most of all hamster toys, kind of, sometimes, not if you get them at the pet stores, if you know how to look for hamster toys, which if you're in the hamster community for long enough, or if you've been owning hamsters for long enough, then you kind of just see hamster toys in a lot of things. Like I get most of my hamster toys from stores, like not pet stores, because there is a lot of things that are safe for your hamsters that you can get at like Target and Walmart, but you just have to know how to look for them basically. But it is a little bit harder to find cheaper toys because they're not necessarily that expensive. Some are obviously, but some are cheaper. All right, I thought I included this in the video, but I guess I did not. Also, a lot of people home make their toys, and that is obviously a super cheap way to do it. You can make it cardboard, you can make foraging toys. There is millions of videos out there on how to make hamster toys, so that is the kind of only alternative cheap way to get hamster toys, is make them. I also have a video coming out this Thursday on hamster safe paint, so you can make your own hamster toys. Also, I want to include chew toys, and unfortunately there's not really a cheap version of chew toys, but your hamster still needs to have chew toys. You can actually get, I think they're called Whimsies or whatever. They're a dog chew, but they're super safe for your hamster, and pretty much every single hamster, at least every single hamster that I've heard of, they love Whimsies, and it's only like 98 cents to get one of them, which is obviously not that cheap, but it will last your hamster a decent amount of time. All right, last topic. I wanted to include it at the last because unfortunately I really don't think you can get food on a budget for hamsters, because of course there is cheap food out there like at Walmart and whatnot, but it's not good for your hamster. It's not food that you should be feeding your hamster, even though it is cheap. And again, like I said with the pine bedding, it's a bedding, but it is not good for your hamster. So I would recommend just getting at pet stores, which they have it at PetSmart. They don't have it at my Petco, but they might have it at Petco, I'm not sure. But at PetSmart they have this kind, which is safe for your hamsters, and it's probably the best commercial food that you can get, and it's only, I think, like $8, maybe $9. Again, I personally don't think that you can really get their food on a budget, unfortunately. All right, so that is all I have for you guys. I also want to include that sand, because sand is definitely an important part of your hamster's cage, but it is in general super cheap. You can get a super big bag of it for only $4 at Home Depot, I think is the place. and it's a huge bag for only $4. So okay, I guess I got that wrong and it's actually $6 now, but when I got it, it was $4, whatever. It's still super cheap. I do want to bring up, do not get that kind from Lowe's, because one time I got it from Lowe's and I baked it and I did everything that you need to do when it comes to getting sand for hamsters, and it was extremely dusty. So make sure you either get it from Home Depot, online, and make sure it's not a clear bag that says play sand, and make sure it's like the white bag that says play sand, because then that kind will be super good for your hamster. So, super cheap, and I would recommend definitely adding it to your cage because I think it is a super important part of your hamster's cage. I personally don't think that they are a cheap animal because you have to constantly rebuy a lot of things. Like if they chew a whole thing, you're gonna have to get more chew toys. Obviously, eventually their bedding is going to get dirty, so you're gonna have to buy new bedding. Obviously, they're going to eat all their food, so you're gonna have to buy more food. Like it's in constant, and that's with a lot of animals. So like I wouldn't consider them cheap, but there is totally ways to own a hamster on a budget. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it helped one of you guys, and I will see you guys all in my next video. Bye guys.